Number 10 is the Chevy Camaro. You can't have any serious discussion of muscle car history without bringing up the Chevy Camaro. By 1970, the Camaro was already in its second iteration, and the basic design of GM's F-body pony car platform would endure for an astounding 13 years in this form, with practically zero changes. Important cosmetic facelifts were performed in 1974 and 1978. Hands down, the most popular version of the second-generation Camaro, the 1970 to 1973 model run, is characterized by its distinctive Ferrari-like egg crate grille and quartet of circular taillights. A variety of power plants were available, but the one that gets the most attention is the solid-lifter 350 cubic inch LT1 small block in the 1970 Z28, which made 360 horsepower in peak form. Number 9. Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. The Rockford Files and movies like Smokey and the Bandit. Also remarkable is that the Pontiac Firebird and top Trans Am model were built on GM's F-body platform, which it shared with the Chevy Camaro, making them nearly identical. GM's divisions had become expert at platform sharing and were highly effective at differentiating the two with divisional power plants, suspension tuning, fascias, and sheet metal. Chevy Chevelle SS454. Of all the 1970s muscle cars, the Chevelle SS454 is considered one of the most, if not the most, potent performers of the decade. A 450 horsepower, 454 cubic inch big block was the top engine choice for the 1970 model, and no other car would eclipse that mark until decades later. Because the decade of the 1960s technically ends at 1970, and the 1970s begin with 1971, the 1971 Chevelle SS454 with the top engine, again the LS6, but with 425 horsepower, would technically be Chevy's top muscle car for the 1970s. Chevelle SS454s of all stripes are rare and valuable, but collectors know these are difficult cars to authenticate because documentation relies entirely on expert examination and original sales documentation. Number 7. AMC Javelin. As the smallest of the Detroit Big Four, American Motors Corporation, AMC, had likely the hardest road in front of it as it struggled for the attention of younger buyers. "The car for the human race" was the slogan used by AMC CEO George Romney in the early part of the 1960s. This philosophy emphasized practicality over speed and competition, but by the end of the decade, the profitability of performance machinery was clear, and AMC belatedly created the AMX and Javelin to compete on the track and in the muscle car marketplace. The late effort eventually paid off, with Trans Am championships coming in 1971 and 1972 at the hands of George Falmer and Roy Woods. The 1971 Javelin model would be the most desirable AMC performance model of the decade, with an available 330 horsepower 401 Ci V8. Number 6. Big Horse Ford Mustang. Anyone comparing the 1964 Mustang to the 1973 Mustang for the first time would have a hard time concluding that both cars share the same underpinnings. But it's true. The first generation of the Ford pony car spanned 10 years, but by the end, the Mustang had grown significantly. Starting with the 1971 model, the Mustang had gained enough mass and volume to earn the nickname Big Horse Mustang. The pony had become a Clydesdale, gaining as much as 800 pounds over the original. But as any Budweiser drinker will gladly tell you, The Clydesdale makes a great draft horse. Because Big Horse 1971 to 1973 Mustangs are still first-generation Mustangs, they retain a lot of the cash of the earlier ones. The quickest of the Big Horse lot was the 375 horsepower Super Cobra Jet 429 cubic inch Big Block, which was only available during the 70s at any rate, in 1971. Number 5 is the 1972 Ford Torino. By the 1970s, mid-size Fords for the most part were not a favorite of enthusiasts outside of the NASCAR circuit. But here they did well, and the publicity the mid-size Ford Torino received made it a popular seller despite fuel economy headwinds. Though well off the Torino's peak power offering of 335 horsepower with the 428 cubic inch Super Cobra Jet of 1969, the 1972 Torino featured what was arguably the best styling of the model's history. The top performance engine available for the 1972 Torino was the 351 cubic inch 4-barrel Cleveland V8 with 248 horsepower. Of special note is the 1972 model's unique one-year-only front fascia, which features a grille that looks amazingly like the intake of a fighter jet's engine. Gorgeous and rare due to its one-year styling, we have to put the 1972 Torino on our list of best muscle cars from the 1970s. Number 4, 1974 Plymouth Barracuda. The E-Body platform was Chrysler Corp's answer to the Ford Mustang, Chevy Camaro, and Pontiac Firebird. As the last of Detroit's Big Four to enter the pony car market in 1970, the E-Body platform, the Dodge Challenger, and the Plymouth Barracuda had the benefit of cashing in on the trial and error of its predecessors, and in doing so ended up producing both Dodge and Plymouth models through the 1974 model year, well after first-generation pony car models from GM and Ford had vanished. Our short list dictates we choose just one, and we pick the Plymouth Barracuda for staying true to its original design the longest, all the way to 1974, when it would have been considered a stylistically outdated dinosaur. The Chevy Laguna S-3. When the muscle car performance party was raided by the feds in 1972, there wasn't a lot left in the aftermath to celebrate, but for the fans still out there willing to participate, GM's new Colonnade-style midsize A-body, 1973 to 1977, offered a better chassis with some pretty cool styling, if not the same power level of earlier models. At Chevy, the Laguna S-3 took the place of the top Supersport SS model, and for 1975 and 1976 offered the slant-nose front Endura grille bumper assembly. This allowed the car to slice through the wind and provided an aerodynamic advantage on NASCAR's superspeedways. They're rare today and can be transformed into serious performers with some pretty cool LS powertrain swaps. The Colonnade A-body was also available at Buick, Century and Regal, Oldsmobile, Cutlass and 442, and Pontiac, Tempest and Le Mans between 1973 and 1977. Number 2, 1978 Ford Fairmont. Nobody in their right mind would consider a 1978 Ford Fairmont to be a muscle car, at least not in 1978. By this time, Detroit had given up on performance, choosing to focus more on utility economy, and production cost. The Fox platform, a code name Ford used to remind engineers the goal was to exceed the Audi and Volkswagen-built model of the same name, would prove so versatile that it became the basis of the new Mustang that dominated the performance decade of the 1980s. It all started in 1978 with the lowly Ford Fairmont, an icon of domestic practicality, not high performance. If you're a savvy car guy, you'll see right through the Fairmont's bland looks and its utilitarian vibe and see it for the lightweight hot rod it can be. Number 1 is the 1978 Chevy Malibu. By the close of the 1970s, most of Detroit had moved on from the halcyon days of cheap gas and big horsepower, now forced to compete with more economical offerings from offshore. At General Motors, the Colonnade A-bodies of 1973 to 1977 gave way to the slimmed-down G-body Intermediate, which from a size and mass standpoint was about the same size as the X-body Nova compact car of a decade earlier. Lightweight, simple, and visually austere, the new Chevy Malibu G-body of 1978 was no powerhouse. But with its front-engine, rear-drive, sometimes V8-powered layout, it would become a popular choice as hot-rodding fodder in the decades to come. Let me know what you thought of this video, and if you enjoyed it, make sure to like and subscribe. Don't forget to check out my other videos by clicking the links over here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.